The day I received my business license, I called my parents from the tiny office space I'd just rented in downtown Vancouver. I was 23 years old, and I'd just officially registered Cascade Digital Marketing, my very own company. My hands were shaking as I dialed, not from nervousness about the business, but from anticipation of their reaction. Growing up as the middle child in the Chen family meant I was always caught between my older brother Daniel's accomplishments and my younger sister Melissa's charm. Daniel was the golden child, the one who'd gotten his MBA from UBC and landed a six-figure job at a consulting firm by 25. Melissa was the baby, the one who could do no wrong. And me? I was just Emily, the quiet one, the one who chose art school over business school, the dreamer who worked freelance instead of getting a real job. Emily? Is everything okay? My mother's voice came through the phone, already tinged with concern. Because, of course, why else would I be calling in the middle of a weekday? Everything's great, Mom. I wanted to share some news. I just registered my own digital marketing company. I'm officially a business owner. There was a pause. Then I heard my father's voice in the background. Put her on speaker. Emily, my father said, his tone already skeptical. What do you mean, a business? You're starting a business? Yes, Dad. I've been freelancing for 3 years, building up a client base. I've saved enough to rent an office, hire an assistant, and I've already got 5 contracts lined up. The projected revenue for the first year is around $200,000. Another pause. Then Daniel's voice joined the conversation. He must have been visiting. That's ambitious. But do you really think you can handle running a business? Do you know anything about business management, payroll, taxes, liability insurance? I've been preparing for this for months, Daniel. I've consulted with an accountant, a lawyer. I've got everything set up properly. My mother sighed. Honey, we're just worried. You've always been so creative. Business is different. It's numbers. It's discipline. Maybe you should talk to Daniel first, get his advice before you do anything permanent. I've already done it, Mom. The papers are filed. I'm calling to share good news, not to ask permission. Well, my father said slowly. We'll see how it goes. Just don't come to us when it falls apart and you need money. You're an adult now. You make your choices. You live with the consequences. I hung up feeling smaller than I had in years. But I pushed forward. Over the next 18 months, I proved them wrong in every way possible. Cascade Digital Marketing grew from just me and one assistant to a team of 8. We moved to a larger office in Gastown. Our client list included 2 major tech startups, a national retail chain, and a nonprofit that won awards for the campaign we designed. By the time I was 25, my company was worth approximately $850,000, and I was personally taking home more than Daniel made at his consulting firm. The irony wasn't lost on me when I finally invited my family to the office for our second anniversary celebration. My mother walked through the modern space with its exposed brick walls and sleek workstations, her eyes wide. My father examined the client portfolio on the wall. Even Daniel seemed impressed, though he tried to hide it behind questions about our retention rate and profit margins. You've done well, Emily, my father finally admitted. I'm surprised. Pleasantly surprised. It wasn't exactly a warm apology for their earlier dismissiveness, but it was something. Then came the opportunity that changed everything. In March, one of our biggest clients, a tech company called North Star Systems, invited me to attend a 3-month intensive executive training program they were hosting in Singapore. It was designed for their key partners and was worth over $50,000. They'd be covering all expenses, and it would position Cascade as their primary marketing partner in Western Canada when I returned. It was a massive opportunity. I called a family dinner to share the news. This time, the response was different. Singapore? For 3 months? My mother's face lit up. That's wonderful, Emily. See, this is what happens when you work hard and prove yourself. Daniel raised his glass. Congratulations, Em. That's actually really impressive. North Star is huge. Even Melissa hugged me. My sister, the international businesswoman, but my father's expression was thoughtful. 3 months is a long time to leave a young company. Who's going to manage things while you're gone? I've got a solid team, Dad. My assistant manager, Rachel, has been with me from the beginning. She knows the business inside and out, and I'll be available by video call for any major decisions. Still, he said, stirring his coffee slowly, a lot can happen in 3 months. You should make sure everything's properly protected before you leave. Business insurance, power of attorney for Rachel, all of that. It was actually good advice, and I followed it. I met with my lawyer, updated all my corporate documents, ensured Rachel had clear authority to handle day-to-day operations, and set up weekly video calls with my whole team. I even prepaid the office rent for 4 months, just to be safe. I left for Singapore in early April, excited and nervous. The program was intense but incredible. I was learning from executives who ran marketing departments for companies worth billions. I was networking with professionals from around the world. Every week, I video called Rachel and the team, and everything was running smoothly. The business was actually growing in my absence. Then, in early June, 10 weeks into my program, my phone rang at 2 in the morning, Singapore time. It was Rachel, and she was crying. "Emily, I don't know how to tell you this. I just got an email from the landlord. He's confused because someone contacted him saying we're vacating the office at the end of the month. He wanted to confirm before he listed it." I sat up in bed, my heart already racing. What? No one's vacating anything. Who contacted him? That's the thing. He said it was your brother, Daniel. He had some kind of authorization letter, claimed you'd decided to close the company, and that he was handling the dissolution process for you. The room spun. That's insane! I never authorized anything like that. Did you talk to Daniel? I called him immediately. Emily, he said you'd asked him to handle this before you left. He said you'd realized the company was too much stress and that you wanted to wind things down quietly while you were away, so you could just announce it was done when you returned. He said you were too embarrassed to tell the team directly. Rachel, I never said any of that. I would never say that. Call Daniel back right now and tell him he has no authority to do anything with my company. I did. He said he'd call you directly to clear up the misunderstanding. But Emily, there's more. I checked with the bank this morning. Someone authorized a transfer of $30,000 from the company account 3 days ago. The notation says, business closure expenses. I was fully awake now, ice running through my veins. How is that even possible? Rachel, you're the only one besides me with signing authority. That's what I thought. But apparently, there was a power of attorney document filed with the bank 2 weeks ago. It gave Daniel authority to access the account as your representative. The bank said it had your signature and was notarized. It's forged. It has to be. I never signed anything like that. I immediately called Daniel. It rang 4 times before he answered, his voice groggy. It's the middle of the night here. What's going on? What's going on is that you're apparently closing down my company and stealing money from my business account. What the hell, Daniel? There was a pause. Then his voice changed, became defensive. I'm not stealing anything. I'm helping you. Do you have any idea what kind of financial mess you're in? The overhead on that office is insane. You're paying 8 salaries plus benefits. Your profit margin is barely 15%. I ran the numbers, Emily. You're going to be underwater in 6 months. That's not your decision to make. And it's not true. We're profitable and growing. You're naive, he said, and I could hear him getting out of bed, probably walking to another room so he wouldn't wake his wife. You don't understand real business. I looked at your books. How did you look at my books? Dad gave me access. You'd set him up as an emergency contact with your accountant, remember? Last year, when you were worried about that audit, Dad asked me to review everything. Make sure you weren't making any catastrophic mistakes. I did remember. I'd listed my father as an emergency contact, just a precaution in case something happened to me. I never imagined he'd use it to give Daniel access to my confidential financial information. So you used information you obtained improperly to decide, on your own, to shut down my company? I'm saving you from yourself, Daniel said, his voice rising. You're going to crash and burn, and then you'll come crying to mom and dad for money. I'm preventing that. I've already got a buyer lined up for your client list. A marketing firm in Richmond. They'll pay $200,000 for your contracts. You'll walk away with money in your pocket instead of debt. You sold my clients? I'm in the process of negotiating. The deal closes next week. By the time you get back, it'll all be done. You can thank me later. I hung up on him. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely dial my lawyer's number. It was afternoon in Vancouver, and thankfully, she answered on the second ring. Melissa Bryant, she said. Her name was a coincidence, same as my sister but no relation. Melissa, it's Emily Chen. I need help. My brother is trying to steal my company. Over the next hour, I explained everything. Melissa listened, asked questions, and then went silent for a long moment. Emily, I need to tell you something. When we set up your corporation, you elected S-Corp status for tax purposes. Do you remember the additional registration we did? Vaguely. There was a lot of paperwork. Part of that registration involved declaring certain assets for federal tax monitoring purposes. Because your company handles digital marketing for tech firms, some of which have government contracts, your business registration is flagged in the Canadian Business Corporations database. Any attempted sale or transfer of the company requires verification through the Canada Revenue Agency to ensure there's no tax evasion or fraud involved. Okay, but how does that help me? It means that if Daniel has actually signed documents to sell your company or your client contracts, he's triggered an automatic review. And if he forged your signature on a power of attorney to access your bank account, he's committed fraud. Not just regular fraud, Emily. Because the business has federal registration status, it's federal fraud. My mouth went dry. What does that mean? It means that if we report this, the RCMP will investigate. Their commercial crimes unit handles this kind of case. If they find evidence of forgery and fraud involving a federally registered business, Daniel could face serious charges. We're talking potentially 5 to 10 years in prison. I felt sick. He's my brother. He's also actively stealing from you, Melissa said quietly. I know this is hard, but you need to decide right now. Do you want to stop this, or do you want to let him destroy everything you've built? I closed my eyes. Stop it. Do whatever you need to do. Melissa worked fast. By the next morning, Vancouver time, she'd filed an emergency injunction, freezing my business accounts and prohibiting any further transactions. She'd also filed a report with the RCMP Commercial Crimes Unit and sent a cease and desist letter to the marketing firm in Richmond that Daniel was supposedly negotiating with. Then the police got involved, and everything escalated in ways I never imagined. The RCMP investigator assigned to the case was a woman named Detective Sarah Kwan. She called me 2 days after the initial report was filed. Miss Chen, I've reviewed the documentation your lawyer provided. I need to ask you some questions about your relationship with your brother and the timeline of these events. I walked her through everything. She listened without interrupting, taking notes. Miss Chen, have you checked your business premises recently? Through security cameras, or had anyone physically verify the status? No, I've been relying on my assistant manager, Rachel. Why? Because, according to our initial investigation, your brother has done more than just attempt to sell your client list. He's been accessing your office regularly for the past 3 weeks. We pulled security footage from the building. He's been removing equipment. My stomach dropped. Equipment? Computers, primarily. Also, some furniture. We tracked down one of the computers. He sold it on Craigslist. When we interviewed the buyer and examined the computer, we found it still had client data on it. Confidential marketing materials, strategy documents, passwords. Oh my God. Miss Chen, your brother hasn't just committed fraud against you. He's potentially compromised your client's confidential information. This is a much bigger case than we initially thought. We'll need to notify your clients about the potential data breach. The next week was a nightmare. Detective Kwan executed a search warrant on Daniel's home and found extensive evidence of his activities. He'd created an entire fake email account using a variation of my name. He'd forged multiple documents, including the power of attorney, a business dissolution form, and contracts with the Richmond marketing firm. He'd removed 11 computers, 6 monitors, and 2 servers from my office. He'd sold some of the equipment and was storing the rest in a rented storage unit, planning to sell it all before I returned from Singapore. Worst of all, he'd already received a $50,000 deposit from the Richmond firm as a down payment on the client contracts he'd promised to deliver. The investigators interviewed my parents. That recording was played for me later, and listening to it broke something in me. Detective Kwan asked my mother, "Were you aware that your son was accessing Emily's business without her permission?" "He wasn't doing anything wrong," my mother said, her voice defensive. "He was helping Emily. She's in over her head with that company. Daniel has an MBA. He knows what he's doing. Emily's just a girl who got lucky." "Mrs. Chen, your son forged legal documents and stole business equipment. That's not helping. He was trying to help her before she lost everything." "You don't understand. Emily's always been the dreamer, the one who doesn't think things through. Daniel was protecting her from herself. He's a good son. He was trying to help his sister." My father's response was somehow worse. If Emily had been more responsible, more willing to take advice from people who actually understand business, none of this would have happened. She's made a lot of mistakes. Daniel was just trying to clean them up. Detective Kwan's voice was cold. "Mr. Chen, are you saying you believe it's acceptable for one adult to forge another adult's signature and steal from their business?" There was a long silence. Then my father said, "Family helps family. That's how we were raised." But the evidence didn't care about their justifications. The RCMP built a comprehensive case. Daniel was arrested in late June and charged with multiple counts of fraud, forgery, identity theft, theft over $5,000, and unauthorized access to computer systems. Because the business had federal registration status and because he'd compromised client data, several charges were federal offenses. I flew back to Vancouver in early July, cutting my Singapore program short by 2 weeks. Walking into my office was surreal. The police had cordoned off sections of it as a crime scene. Half the workstations were empty where Daniel had removed equipment. My team was there, though, and Rachel hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. "We kept working," she said. "We used our personal laptops. We didn't let a single client down. Every deadline was met." I wanted to cry, but I was too angry. The preliminary hearing was in August. I sat in the courtroom and watched as the Crown prosecutor laid out the evidence. Daniel's lawyer tried to argue that this was a family dispute, a misunderstanding between siblings about business management. The judge cut him off. "Counsel, your client forged legal documents, stole business equipment, accessed bank accounts without authorization, and compromised confidential client data. This isn't a family dispute, this is a crime spree." Daniel looked at me then, across the courtroom. He mouthed, "I was helping you." I looked away. The trial took place in November. My parents attended every day, sitting behind Daniel's side of the courtroom. They never once looked at me. Melissa came once, sitting awkwardly in the back, clearly torn between her siblings. The evidence was overwhelming. The Crown presented the forged documents, the security footage, the bank records showing Daniel had accessed my account and transferred over $45,000 in total. They presented testimony from the Richmond marketing firm, whose owner was horrified to learn he'd been negotiating with someone who had no authority to sell anything. They presented expert testimony about the value of the stolen equipment and the compromised client data. Daniel's defense was essentially that he genuinely believed he was helping me, that he thought I was in financial trouble and too proud to ask for help. His lawyer painted him as a concerned older brother who'd made some poor choices but had good intentions. The prosecutor destroyed that narrative. If the defendant genuinely believed his sister was in financial trouble, why did he pocket the $50,000 deposit from the Richmond firm? Why did he sell her company's equipment on Craigslist for cash? Why did he create fake email accounts and forge her signature instead of simply talking to her? The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They found Daniel guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the Crown asked for 8 to 10 years. Daniel's lawyer pleaded for leniency, arguing that he had no prior criminal record, that he had a wife and 2 young children, that he'd been employed at a respected firm. The judge listened to everything. Then she asked me if I wanted to make a victim impact statement. I hadn't prepared one. I thought I'd be too emotional. But standing there in that courtroom, with my parents glaring at me from the gallery as if I were the villain in this story, something broke open. Your Honor, my brother didn't just steal money from me. He stole something much more important. He stole my trust. He stole my sense of safety. For 25 years, I believed that family meant something. I believed that no matter what, my family would have my back. My brother destroyed that. And the worst part? He still thinks he was helping me. He genuinely believes that I'm too stupid, too incompetent, too much of a dreamer to run a successful business. So he decided to take it from me for my own good. That level of arrogance, that complete disregard for my autonomy as an adult, is almost more painful than the financial damage. My brother didn't see me as a person. He saw me as a problem to solve. And my parents encouraged him. They gave him access to my confidential information. They told him I was in over my head. They created the environment where he thought this was acceptable. So yes, I want him held accountable. Because if he's not, he'll never learn. And my parents will never learn. They'll go on believing that I'm just the dramatic daughter who sent her helpful brother to prison. They need to understand that actions have consequences. That you can't just take things from people because you think you know better than they do. The judge sentenced Daniel to 6 years in federal prison. She also ordered him to pay full restitution, the $45,000 he'd stolen, plus the value of the equipment he'd sold or damaged, plus damages for the cost of notifying clients about the data breach, plus my legal fees. The total came to just over $230,000. Daniel's face went white. His lawyer requested time to pay. The judge denied it. The defendant has shown no genuine remorse. He's maintained throughout this process that he was helping his sister. That demonstrates a fundamental lack of understanding of the severity of his actions. He will begin making restitution immediately upon his release from prison, and his wages will be garnished until the full amount is repaid. My mother stood up in the gallery. This is ridiculous. He's going to prison for helping his sister? The judge's gaze was icy. Ma'am, sit down or I'll hold you in contempt. Your son committed serious crimes. The fact that you continue to characterize them as helping demonstrates why he thought this behavior was acceptable. My father pulled my mother back down, but I saw the hatred in their eyes when they looked at me. After the sentencing, Daniel's lawyer approached me in the hallway. My client would like to speak with you. No, he wants to apologize. He had months to apologize. He chose to maintain his innocence and claim he was helping me. I don't want his apology now. I walked away and didn't look back. The aftermath was complicated. My company survived, though we lost 2 clients who were uncomfortable with the data breach, even though no information was actually misused. I replaced all the stolen equipment, upgraded our security systems, and implemented new protocols for data protection. Rachel got a promotion and a significant raise. The team rallied around me in ways that reminded me that family isn't just blood. My parents sent me one email, 3 weeks after the sentencing. It was from my father. Emily, your mother and I are deeply disappointed in you. Daniel made some mistakes, but he's your brother. You could have handled this privately, as a family. Instead, you chose to involve the police and destroy his life. He's lost his job. His wife is considering divorce. His children ask why Daddy isn't home. You did this. We thought we raised you better than this. Until you're ready to apologize to your brother and make this right, we don't want contact with you. I read it twice. Then I deleted it and blocked their email addresses. Melissa reached out separately. I don't know what to say. What Daniel did was wrong. But he's still our brother, and Mom and Dad are. They're devastated. They should be, I said. They enabled this. They gave him access to my information. They told him I was incompetent. They created this situation. I know, but they're still our parents. No, Melissa, they're your parents. They made it very clear that I'm not their daughter anymore. Not unless I apologize for reporting a crime. She was crying. I don't want to choose between you. Then don't. But understand that I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. I'm not going to minimize what Daniel did. And I'm not going to have a relationship with people who think I'm the villain in this story. That was 2 years ago. Daniel is currently serving his sentence at a federal facility in Ontario. My parents moved to be closer to him, and as far as I know, they visit him every week. Melissa sends me awkward text messages on my birthday and at Christmas, but we haven't seen each other in person since the sentencing. My company is thriving. We've expanded to 12 employees. We opened a second office in Calgary. Our revenue last year was over $2 million. I bought a condo in Yaletown, and I'm dating someone wonderful who thinks it's incredible that I built a company from nothing. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing. If I should have just let it go, handled it privately, found a way to keep the family together. Then I remember sitting in that Singapore hotel room at 2 in the morning, learning that my brother was actively destroying everything I'd built, and I remember the choice was never really mine. Daniel made his choices. My parents made theirs. I just refused to protect them from the consequences. I learned something important through all of this. Real love doesn't mean protecting people from the results of their harmful actions. Real love means holding people accountable, even when it's painful, especially when it's painful. My parents thought they were loving Daniel by excusing his behavior, by blaming me, by enabling his belief that he knew better than everyone else. But all they did was prevent him from growing, from learning, from becoming a better person. The hardest lesson was this: sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from. And choosing yourself, choosing your boundaries, choosing consequences over comfort doesn't make you the bad guy. It makes you someone who understands that love without accountability isn't really love at all. If there's one thing I'd want anyone going through something similar to understand, it's this: you are not responsible for managing other people's emotions about the boundaries you set. If someone commits a crime against you and faces legal consequences, that's not your fault. That's justice. If your family can't understand that, if they choose the perpetrator over the victim, that tells you everything you need to know about their values, and you deserve better. I still run my company. I still work too hard and care too much about my clients. But now I do it knowing that I'm capable of protecting what I've built. I'm capable of standing up for myself, even when it costs me everything I thought family meant. And I'm capable of building a new family, one based on mutual respect, genuine support, and real accountability. The office where Daniel used to steal my equipment now has a plaque on the wall. It's a quote I found after the trial ended. "The truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable." I look at it every morning when I come in, and I remember that freedom is worth the price, every single time.